Everybody, how's it going? My name is ThamReal. Welcome everybody to Final Fantasy XIV commentary. Today we're going to be talking about the infamous controversial Eureka. I've been playing it for about a week, wanted to gather my thoughts about it. I like some things about it, I dislike some things about it. Overall, I really like it and I feel like it could be improved on. Now, I decided to lay off talking about it for a while, mostly because I've been playing it. I've been trying it out. I've been trying to figure it out. I understand there was initial negative reaction from the community about it because players that tried it out on the very first day didn't like the initial reactions, initial thoughts of it, and wanted to go immediately to social media and talk about it. Some people that simply liked it or wanted to see what it's going to be like towards the end continue to play, which is why the initial reaction seems like everybody hated it, but it's only people that didn't like it hated it and went out to social media and Reddit to complain about it. And to be completely honest, genuinely honest, they do have some credence. I don't want to just dismiss them entirely. They do have some credence and do have some points regarding Eureka, about the grind behind it and the relic weapon and the rewards at the end of it. But we'll talk about it throughout the video, and I do have some concerns about it myself that I do want to voice in this video. But for now, let's first initially begin with the first relic experience, that is Eureka, at least for me. I've never got to chance opportunity to get a Realm Reborn or Heaven's Ward relic weapon going. I've just entered Final Fantasy XIV right as the Realm Reborn was ending and getting myself into Heaven's Ward. I never even knew what the relic weapon was like about or whether it was that important, so I kind of missed out on it, and I was a little bit busy with university stuff, so I was still learning a lot of things about Final Fantasy at the time when I was playing it. So unfortunately I just ended up missing it out eventually, never learned the importance or the major reason behind it. But now that I got to enter Eureka, this will be my first ever relic weapon experience, and so far it's pretty enjoyable. My overall thoughts just off the bat is Eureka is fun, challenging in a way, and feels very community oriented. Now let's go a little bit into the depth here. What did I like about Eureka? First of all, let's talk about the mobs. I initially liked that things hurt in Eureka. Easy to die if not careful, very easy to die, especially if you're not in a group together or not coordinating with the group safely. Monsters above your level will be very painful. They're gonna hurt a lot, especially if you don't have the proper resistance as necessary. Going to groups is highly encouraging. On the very first day, we decided to party up together in a group of 8 and try to farm some mobs and monsters above us about 3 levels, and if we weren't careful, we could have easily been wiped out. And good thing we had a red mage on us whenever we needed a extra res, and good thing I played as a bard whenever we needed mana and TP, because boy, farming monsters at first, before we even knew about the fate trains, was quite an experience. We were trying to kind of figure out things on our own with our FC and friends, and it was a learning experience nevertheless, but it was still a fascinating experience of trying to figure out this world of Eureka before us even knowing about anything that is, known about it on today. This was actually day 1 of Eureka, so we knew absolutely nothing about it, but the fact that you had to avoid monsters, you had to kite them in a certain way, or kind of figure out what they're going to be looking at and how to pull them properly and how to avoid the AoE mechanics and everything and how not to overpull was really cool, because it felt more dangerous. It felt more like we were breaking into something more dangerous, something more challenging. Eureka map itself is not too big, Eureka Animus in particular. By the way, the name Animus might have some sort of low reasons we will talk about a little bit in the future, but for now just remember that the map that we're on right now is Eureka Animus, which may expand in the future possibly. But the map itself isn't too big, and typically you can run around on it on foot. You do need mounts at around level 17 if you're going to be doing the Fate Train, and it's highly recommended to have hopefully a 2-seater mount. You can obtain a 2-seater mount through Recruit a Friend, through Mog Station Store, or even to marry a friendly player. So if you want to, feel free to marry, I guess. This is a good time, good chance to start thinking about marriage, to have a 2-seater mount. Nevertheless, let's talk a little bit about the Elemental Wheel. As you earn Magicite points throughout the game, throughout the little quests, you'll be able to input the Magicite points into your Elemental Wheel in order to set up your advantages, disadvantages, and resistance elements in particular. The elements work as follows. Water beats earth, which beats lightning, which beats water. And the wind beats fire, which beats ice, which beats wind. Earth does not affect any of the secondary elements of wind, fire, ice, and vice versa. Same thing for lightning and water, and vice versa. At the same time, wind, just like fire and just like ice, do not affect earth, lightning, and water. They only have two ways that they go in particular, and just memorizing and understanding these resistances or weaknesses is going to be really important. Spending Magicite points in order to increase one element or the other will allow you to gain advantage over monsters. Let's say, for example, you're fighting an earth monster and you have a water stance, sorry. If you have a water stance, you will actually be dealing increased damage according to the points of Magicite you have in your water element. And vice versa, if you switch your Magicite points to earth element, when you're fighting an earth element monster, you actually take reduced damage from that monster. If you have the element that is weak to your monster, let's say for example lightning to earth monster, you'll actually be taking increased damage. The spinning of the wheel works as follows. You have 5 spins in total, and you can reload them back over at the hub world near the Magicite circlet, I believe. I don't know, it's some sort of a Magicite conductor that lets you input the Magicite points. I forgot the name of it 100% entirely, but it's like this circular thing that lets you spin your Magicite points near the very entrance of the Eureka map. Nevertheless, over at the hub, once you input the points, it actually gets you loaded up with 5 spins. The spins allow you to set the points to different elements. Let's say, for example, I max out all of my points right now onto the fire element. If I use the spins to switch all the 4 points onto water, onto ice, onto earth, and whichever element that I want to have the advantage in particular, whether it's to resist defensively or to have advantage offensively. It's actually a really cool system, and it kind of forces the player to be aware of what kind of monster they're fighting and to adjust accordingly. If you're fighting something of higher level and you want to be able to resist the damage, you match them. If you're finding something of about your level and you have a tank available, or you're doing it solo and you can handle it, you try to go against the element they're weak against in order to benefit in doing more damage towards them and kill them a lot faster. If you're a tank, you most likely will want to be matching the element they're in order to have the damage reduced on you, or possibly even try to mix and match with some spending of Magicite onto some of the resistance and some of the advantage aspects, possibly. Different builds can be done and different builds can be created through the elemental wheel, which is rather fascinating for me. The different rule set that Eureka follows in particular that are very akin and similar to Final Fantasy XI, a game that I never played, but a lot of my friends and FC members have said was very familiar to experience in Eureka. For example, undead monsters focus on blood aggro in particular, which means anybody who has less health than a max health, let's say for example you took a little bit of damage, you're actually going to be aggroed a lot more by the undead monsters because you have less health compared to if you have max health. Elementals will also get aggro by magic, so if you have a wind sprite or an ice sprite next to you and you use a healing spell of some sort, or you cast some sort of a spell, they'll be aggro to you more than it would be to somebody using a non-spell effect. Let's say for example like a bard using a song or something. I'm pretty sure that's not considered technically a spell effect in particular. At the same time, different spawn rates and mobs according to day and night cycle, which means the undead actually come out more at night compared to the day. During the day you don't really see a lot of undeads, but at night you see a lot more undead beings all over the map. The weather even affects the mob spawn rates and mob spawn variations. Having a blizzard in one area will spawn more ice elementals, or a gale will spawn more wind elementals, and sometimes the weather is required in order to affect the fate spawns. Gale sometimes can be used to spawn a wind elemental, and at the same time rain can also stop a fire elemental like Hazmat from spawning entirely, which is rather interesting and rather fascinating. We actually learned it just yesterday, that if you have pouring rain, Hazmat will not spawn. Either that or there was a bug within the fate and we still yet to figure it out, but this sort of learning process that players discover on their own, in my opinion, is really fascinating and really awesome, and I'd like to see it be perfected on in the future of Eureka possibly. This whole different rule set in the elements and stuff is a really fascinating idea. Quest in Eureka is fairly easy. The main quest in Eureka is very simple, but offers no tracker, so it's very hand-free. Need to figure things out or communicate with the community on the map. Information is key, and sharing it is an advantage. Makes it easy if you have a ninja in most cases, because you can hide yourself, fetch the item out in the overworld, or that is affected by monsters or is infested by high-level monsters, and then return back to the port in order to report back and turn in the item for your quest. You have quests over at level 1, level 3, level 5, level 9, level 13, and I believe also at level 17, where you'll finally get your mount, which is going to be very beneficial for getting around the map and reaching the fates in particular. I really like the sideline story and the lore behind Eureka animals so far, and we've been able to discover by helping out Krill throughout these adventures. At the same time, there's slight predictions and hypotheses from the community regarding the meaning behind the name scheme for Eureka Animals, the current island that we have right now. Apparently, Animals itself is named after or is a reference to some sort of an entity, a deity, a god, or some sort of a being that is wind aspected. So it's a hypothesis that possibly on Eureka Animals, it's part of a wind set. And because of the elemental wheel that we have here, we can tell that we have a element of wind, lightning, fire, water, ice, and earth. So possibly, there could be a possibility that the Eureka will actually expand to further elements. Right now it's only covering the one element with its current island, but it may actually expand further out in order to cover more elements, particularly in the future. I don't know how far or how credible that is, but if you look around Eureka Animals at the moment, the current map, you will see a lot of windy areas, a lot of turbine areas from one side or the other side of the map. It feels very wind aspected if you think about it. I mean, obviously it has lightning monsters and fire monsters, but it doesn't have a lot of water biomes, it doesn't have a lot of lava, it doesn't have a lot of caves. It has some caves, but doesn't have too many caves, doesn't have too many lightning based beings or ice-based beings, too much of them. But it feels like it may be a hypothesis behind it, or maybe some sort of a hint towards it through the naming scheme. I guess we'll have to wait and see for a little bit in the future, but if that's the case, I would love to see the fire area. I feel like lava and brimstone would be really cool to see in a Eureka-like area, especially if the lava were to erupt with possible fates being spawning in the future. Who knows? Maybe. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see and possibly find out what's going to happen. Imagine just imagine the ice Eureka Island having a system where you have to like keep yourself warm while you travel from one side of the snowy dunes to the other, and possibly have to make sure you maintain that heat so you don't freeze out there. That'd be rather interesting. Having different rule sets that the worlds and different islands follow would be really interesting. Some of them may be a little bit annoying, while others may be more interesting, but I don't know, I'm just tossing out ideas right now. I'm just thinking of different things that could happen eventually in Eureka. Eureka encourages groups to run together, and as somebody who has a group and has been running a group, and my free company and my friends were able to put together groups for mornings and evening runs, it's actually been a huge success for us to get progress done and actually be able to have more people on. Maybe they're available more in the morning or the evening to be able to get some leveling done for them and progress done for the weapons. And actually, in a way, I feel like it also united our free company, the ThamLewd ties, over on the server of Exodus, a Prima Data Center. Hint, hint, if you want to join up. It united us a little bit more, and I feel like it brought us a little bit closer together as we worked through this grinds, walked through the farms, worked through the fates, and kind of figured things out together while having a good time together and just overall just bantering and socializing. In a way, it's been kind of nice because I don't usually get to run with too many people all the time, but I've been spending a lot of time with my free company members, and it's been pretty great. It's been pretty lovely. I really do like hanging out with my free company members. I'm not even kidding you. The greatest family in all of yours there, in my opinion. Now, groups are highly encouraged in Eureka. Multiple groups working together rather than individual players is the main basis of Eureka. It encourages experimentation with parties and composition and match set resistance levels depending on how many people you have running with together. Maybe you'll have one group having more tanks and with the other one be able to offer up having more healers or certain red mages or different party compositions. It allows you to experiment with these sort of things depending on how good your party is. Typically, we've been running a standard 2 tank, 2 healer, 4 DPS composition because let's say, for example, we go up on a higher level enemy or a fake mob spawns or some sort of a lag happens because of overpopulation of people together in one area, and one of our tanks gets clapped or a healer gets clapped. Having a backup tank or a healer for these sort of things is highly beneficial for us, and we really value that, which is why we've been running 2 tank, 2 healer, 4 DPS for our majority of the groups. Cooperation with other parties and callouts is also really important. Communicational trains in shout chat and what fate nemesis monsters are being worked on is a really good idea because people are able to call out which one they're going to be targeting first and last and next one, and which one they should be looking out for. Maybe having 2 separate parties will like work together on dinos and Nazis together in order to get one or the other of them to spawn back to back with one another and actually have people participate and benefit from running the 2 fates together, possibly. It also gets players to communicate and coordinate, which is something I love. I haven't seen this type of communication in a real long time in an MMO, and the fact that players have to figure things out on their own and communicate and coordinate is actually really cool. So I'm glad. I feel like Square really hit the hammer on a nail with the communication aspect of getting all the players to communicate together. Now, with all that said, I do have some concerns about Eureka. I believe the initial point of groups to work together is to actually grind through the mobs, but I noticed that Fates is the best way to get any sort of currency required for your weapons and for your armor. At the same time, the type of currency you get from Fates is the Animus Crystal, which is a higher version of the Protein Crystal, which is apparently harder to get, at least in my personal opinion, my personal experience, compared to the Animus Crystal. Protein Crystal is the basic crystal you should be able to get through just farming through mobs and getting chains built up with your party members as you try to chain multiple mobs together and get the Protein Crystals to spawn more. But it's a lot more efficient to run the Fates around the entire map, get a bunch of Animus Crystals, break them down over a long period of time with Geralt in order to collect a lot of Protein Crystals, and then make progress that way instead of taking it the hard way of grinding through the mobs with your party. And that's a little bit weird. I feel like it should be a lot easier to get Protein Crystals compared to Animus Crystals. Animus Crystals are required. You need 150 of them per piece of gear of hat, chest, legs, gloves, and feet. So it's 150 times 5 in order to get your final Pentameld 350 item level gear. Not including the weapon. The weapon actually has a whole different thing behind it, but I feel like Animus is way easier to get, even though it feels like it should be harder to get. I'm not sure if that was the plan for Square to implement that sort of system, but I feel like that should be improved on and maybe make it so that the next set of crystals we have to farm, if any, should be a lot easier to get of the lesser crystal than it is to get of the better crystal and break it down into the lesser crystal itself, because honestly it became kind of a joke when we could just go from party farm to party farm to party farm and then completely farm out all the fates, come back and churn out our hundreds and hundreds of animals that we obtain into dozens and dozens of protein crystals and be able to just benefit from that. Makes gearing entirely easier than it should be. I feel like there should be a little bit more challenge with the collection of the currencies within Eureka in particular. Now, there are some concerns about it as well regarding the item level for the gear. At the moment, the gear itself, the actual gear that you wear, is item level 350 with Pentameld, and the weapon, the final step of the weapon for Eureka, is 355 Pentameld. That sounds fine and perfectly great and peachy on paper, but it still gets outclassed by Savage Sigmascape gear. If you really think about all the stats and how much dexterity, strength, mind, and intellect you're really losing out, which are like the raw stats that really impact your damage, I feel like that should be definitely adjusted in the future. The only reason I think the item level for gear and weapons is lower right now and feels a little bit unimpressive at the moment is because Eureka was a trial run for Square Enix to do something different with the Relic weapon. Therefore, maybe they thought we would start off at 355 for the weapon and 350 for the actual gear at the moment to see how far we can go with, and then perfect on it and improve on it and maybe make it so that it's more rewarding in our next step of Eureka weapon grind and, you know, the Eureka relic weapons, and especially the armor. Technically the armor relics. Relic armor. Yeah, relic armor, that's what I mean. Relic weapon and relic armor right now is like a trial thing for them right now with Eureka, and I feel like it's going to be improving onto the next steps of Eureka in the future. I would like to see it be improved. I would like to see it be a lot more challenging to obtain the weapons and armor for sure, and maybe make us work a little bit harder and try doing different things here and there, and overall improving on the current Eureka experience to something that takes the best part of Eureka, keeps it, and then takes the worst part of Eureka and redoes it to make it more attractive to players that maybe had initial sour taste about it. Now, if you want to just go into Sigmascape Savages, just grind out your gear, you can. I don't think the current Eureka gear and weapons will actually make a huge impact on you unless you really want to gear out alternate jobs, but I'm still going to make sure that I have all my jobs that are really important for me. I might make sure I at least have the relic weapons and some of them armor for them ready on standby so I can utilize it whenever possible and actually upgrade it further in the future. This way I'm able to focus on several jobs that I really want to try to focus on and possibly upgrade the relic weapons in the future steps ahead, if not cover all of them. Depending on how much time I really have, I might be able to cover all of the jobs and be able to gear all of them out in all the relic weapon gear possible and necessary. But we'll see how that goes for now. I'd like to see where it goes further for now. Like I said, I feel like Eureka right now is a trial ground to see what can be improved on. And in next steps and next patches for Eureka, it's actually going to expand and give us better rewards or more worthwhile rewards. For now, it's kind of like a staple system to kind of see what the community thinks about it and what they can improve on. With our current feedback and our player feedback, it should be beneficial for us to, add in more to what we want to see. So while you may be disappointed that the item level currently right now for the gear and the weapons is a little bit low, don't worry about it. I'm pretty sure it's going to be improving in further. It's just the initial step of the Relic weapon for Stormblood. It's definitely going to improve from here on out, as long as they keep, keep everything in mind, keep everything in retrospect, and improve on Eureka experience, and especially benefit and give us more rewards. Another issue that I noticed is that a lot of players in the Fate parties seem to AFK out, and I feel like that could be adjusted by either increasing the density of the monsters, depending on if there's a Zerg in the area, or setting up a system where players that participate in spawning the Fates actually get better rewards and actually get even more rewards for participating in the spawning process. Like maybe put up some sort of like a Fate area within the zone, and actually slowly calculates how much they were able to contribute to it, which will give you even more bonus currency from it rather than having players AFK out. Encouraging players to want to participate in certain things is the key here. And while I understand not everybody is going to be required in order to farm out every single mob out there, granted everybody of high caliber and high level just claps enemies out entirely like as if they're nothing, as if they're paperweight, I feel like systems need to be implemented in order to encourage players to participate. Maybe even set up a system that punishes players that don't participate with greater rewards. Maybe it doesn't give them as good of rewards compared to players that put in the work necessary to spawn some of these Fate monsters. Maybe even set up a system where, depending on certain mobs or certain combination of mobs that have been farmed, greater Fate monsters can spawn, which will encourage players to actually spread out a little bit more on sprawling grounds and actually try to spawn greater Fate monsters, greater Nemesis monsters out there in order to get even better rewards, even better mounts, and even better cosmetics out of them, and even better companions even. Some sort of systems do need to be implemented in order to keep players from being complacent and just AFKing out, however. It's kind of a problem whenever everybody just, maybe about 30 players are working and then 60 of them are AFK out. It's kind of an issue, and I feel like that should definitely be addressed in the future. Nevertheless, some of the other adjustments I would like to see possibly be implemented, from kind of seeing what hearsay and kind of figuring out what other players think of the entire system, is maybe some sort of single player based dailies that people can do that can encourage them to actually enter Eureka and enter the weapon progression and maybe earn some of the currency on the side while trying to coax the new players or the solo players in to hopefully get them a little bit more accustomed to interacting with other players and possibly forming groups and working together. Eureka is very group oriented, very group oriented, and as a solo player you're not really going to be benefiting from it. But I think some systems could be adjusted and implemented in order to coax single solo players into possibly playing with other people out there, making friends along the way, maybe finding other solos and they want to group up together and actually work towards a common goal and get people encouraged to communicate more often. So far I feel like Eureka done a really good job of setting up a nice communication system to get players all talking and communicating and interacting and sharing information, and I'd like to see that just be improved on to get more players encouraged into it. But please understand that if you're going to be going into Eureka, this is a group-oriented experience, so I highly recommend looking at Party Finder or asking for group invites or asking FC members or friends or whatever. Trying to find some sort of a group and be part of a group is going to be very important for you. Possibly even change the spawning rates, like I said before, depending on how many people are within the area, so that players that are zerging around aren't just wiping away certain mobs or just cleaning the house while having other players AFK out, so that players have always something to do and are always encouraged to constantly work and constantly benefit and constantly help out. My opinion on log boxes is less fireworks, which hopefully should be coming in towards the end of this month. Less clothes. I don't need 50 assless chaps, so I will take just 2, thank you. I just need just 2, one for myself and one to maybe sell or something, but I don't need 50 of them in particular. Maybe add more companions, maybe even add more mounts, and especially weapon glamour. Some sort of weapon glamour would be nice. Really anything that can look, maybe something from previous Final Fantasy games that were ported over, or from previous events, some sort of a rare item or a rare cosmetic item that looks something similar to another cosmetic item would be kind of cool. I don't know, anything of that sort would be very, very fascinating to see, and I'd love to see it be implemented eventually. Overall though, I really like Eureka. I think it's a step in a nice direction, into the right direction of having players interact together and learn things on their own, and get them to communicate and everything, and kind of figure things out on themselves. The grind itself for me wasn't really that big of a deal because I just partied up together with FC members and friends, and we cracked jokes, got to know each other a little bit more. I got to talk to some people I don't usually talk to, got to even play catch up with some people, and got to kind of figure out what they're up to right now and what they've been up to. And actually, I feel like I also got to grow a little closer to my free company as we get to interact together, crack jokes, have a good time, overall try to figure things out on our own, figure out different routes to take, and just overall communicate. It kind of felt like I was playing a vanilla World of Warcraft server where we were just running around and kind of trying to farm up some sort of mobs and just interacting, just talking. You find something to talk about, you start conversation, you start cracking jokes. We found a bear fade, did some bear puns. It was just a very nice experience. It was pretty enjoyable. And don't trust the initial reactions to everything that always happens. Usually the people that badmouth something, especially like, I don't know, let's say for example Eureka, on the very first day, would be players that genuinely didn't like it and really wanted to express how they didn't like it. There are so many other players out there that aren't going to offer a feedback until they finally experience everything about Eureka and until they can share the final thoughts. If you want to ask anybody about what they think about it while they're playing it, just check a stream or something and ask them, hey, what do you think about this? Before I tell you anything, whether you may like it or you may not like it regarding Eureka, I can't tell you if you're gonna like it or not. I will never know. The only thing I can recommend is try it yourself. If you like it, you like it. If you don't like it, you like it. The only way you can find that out though is if you try it yourself. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. My name is ThamReal. By the way, these artworks recently were made by Madaran Kai, a long-time viewer on the channel that surprised me with this, and I immediately commissioned them to do some more work for me because that particular artwork looked absolutely stellar. I got a question for y'all. I want to leave it to y'all in the comment section below. I've been doing some possible rebranding on Twitter with this new profile picture and this new design. What would y'all say if this was the rebranding for the entire channel? I kind of like the design of it, kind of like how everything looks, and even has kind of a crossbreed between Final Fantasy XIV and Persona 5 coloration and everything, especially the anime feel of the character. That's actually my character right there. That's my Mikoti right there, ThamReal Rose Petal. And this was really cool to see something like this be implemented. I don't know. I really like it. I love the design behind it. And I was wondering, maybe I could implement this as a staple rebranding for the channel. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your feedback about it. Nevertheless, if you want to contact Madaran Kai and commission them yourself, link to their, not link, but the name of Discord, the Discord name is going to be in the description below. If you want to contact them, please do so. Contact them, ask about the rates. They do some amazing arts, absolutely amazing arts. I'm going to try to encourage Madaran to upload their artwork or upload their samples onto DeviantArt or Twitter or anything of that sort, to try to have like a portfolio ready so I can toss out the link and share the link with the rest of the world and share the link with the rest of y'all. If I have the link available sometime soon, I'll hopefully pin it to the somewhere in the comment section for y'all to check out or have it in the description. Nevertheless, I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think about everything that I talked about here in comment section below, whether it's about Eureka or about the artwork, especially about the artwork. Join us on Discord if you want to. Follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram, follow my social media down in the description below. Nevertheless, hope you enjoyed the video. My name is ThamReal. Like, subscribe, and as always, have a great day, and I'll see you all next video or whatever I make. See ya!